I'm a registered nurse and also a certified emergency room nurse, even though I don't work in the emergency departments anymore. What I do is diet education and healthcare from a different viewpoint. And tonight we're going to talk about the Paleo diet. Now, the reason I'm talking about the Paleo diet, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about myself. About 4 years ago, actually about 5 years ago now, I was almost dead of multi-system organ failure. My hair was falling out, my thyroid was wacko, I had fluid in my lungs all the time, I weighed 35 pounds more than I do now, I looked like I was between 3 and 10 months pregnant, if you can look 10 months pregnant. I had 4+ pitting edema and all my lymph nodes were swollen. And I knew as a nurse that my body was pretty much giving out, and I prayed it didn't take 6 months for me to die. However, I was only 40 years old and my daughter was 10. And so at that point I said, well, it'd be kind of bad if I died, even though I feel bad. Somebody has to know what's wrong with me. And keep in mind that I worked with doctors all the time, and then I started to see doctors outside of work, which is against my religion. And not only that, I started to take prescription medications, things like prednisone and antibiotics and things like that, also against my religion. I ended up taking a grocery-sized bag of medications over 3 years and did not get better, actually continued to get worse to the point of, do I sign up for hospice or do I just keep working? And since I'm Polish, I would have just kept working until I would have fallen over. Crawled in a corner and they would have found my corpse at some point. However, I did find a doctor who diagnosed me by accident with celiac disease. I went to her office, and I have the rash that goes along with celiac disease. I didn't know that at the time. It had been misdiagnosed as things like eczema and contact dermatitis, different things. And so I went to her office and told them pretty much head to toe what was going on with me, and I said, look, I don't know if it's all related, but this is why I'm here. And so the nurse went out, the doctor came in, and she said, I know what you have. It's really rare, and I've never diagnosed it before, but you have celiac disease and dermatitis herpetiformis. I said, great. I said, I've been a nurse for 16 years. I have no idea what you just said. And she said, well, you can't eat gluten anymore. Okay, great. What's gluten? Wheat, barley, rye, and oats. Okay, so that's all I eat every day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and wash it all down with a beer. And she said, well, you can't do that anymore. Okay, so I went home and I told my family I have this really rare disease, and but I'm going to get better because I can't eat food anymore. I just can't eat. There's nothing I can eat. And they said, well, they would happily help me. My son thought I made up the diseases because he said that there's no such thing, Mom, as that. I said, okay, well, I'm pretty smart and I couldn't make this up by myself, so there must be something to it. So I started the gluten-free diet, and the doctor's office called up and they said, your blood tests are negative, your skin biopsy is negative, you don't really have celiac disease. You can go back to eating a regular diet. And I thought, whoa, okay. So I was kind of a little sad about that, and because I thought I'd found the answer. And my husband, the wise one, came up and he said, you know what, I don't care what those test results show, you're clearly better on this silly diet, why don't you just stay on it? So I did. And within 4 months, I was so much better. I started my first business, which is RN on Call, and it's a mobile nursing service. I try to keep people out of the hospitals and healthy. And then within the next month, I started the gluten-free RN, which I've been doing for, again, almost 5 years now. My initial intent was to educate the healthcare providers I work with, the doctors, the nurses, the people that see patients every day. And what I quickly found out is that they don't necessarily want to know about celiac disease or gluten intolerance. Why? Maybe because there's no pill. And remarkably enough, people get better. Okay. So now currently what I do is educate a lot of people in the community about gluten intolerance and celiac disease, and I also speak nationally to different groups depending on what the venue is. We talk a lot about diet. So this is a huge shift for me from going from the emergency department, which some of you have heard me say in the past. Our mantra was always meet them, greet them, treat them, and street them. Get them in, get them out, shoot in a boot, and deal with it later. Whatever it is, if you're not dying, we don't want to know about it. So what I've come to realize and what my paradigm shift has been is that our health is all about the food. It's absolutely, completely and totally all about the food. So I've been on a gluten-free diet for myself and variations of it for the last 4.5 years with extremely good results. I went from being almost dead to last year I ran the Hood to Coast in the Portland Marathon, and this year we're getting ready to do the same. I'm not tremendously fast, but I do finish, and that is my goal. So then within the last month, I found out health-wise that I had one other issue, and that I have a high ANA, which means that I have some type of autoimmune disease still cooking. I had 7 before, now I hopefully just only have 1, but I'm trying to quell that, make that go away by doing a diet change. And so one of the things I did is look into the Paleo diet, and there's a number of reasons for that. A lot of us that are on a gluten-free or casein-free diet, and casein-free, realize that we get to a certain plateau and we're just not getting as better as we feel we should. And so we look at tweaking our diets or making them a little better.